Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 3. Kicking off day 3 is co-host Tammy Vincent. She is an ACOA empowerment coach, a podcaster, top 10 speaker, and author. And her talk title is When the Abuser Leaves, the Trauma Doesn't Until You Decide to Make It. Take it away, Miss Tammy.
Perfect. And actually, I'm just going to start off by saying I changed my talk title, and apparently I never gave Jessica the update on that one. So the new title is Your Past Does Not Define You Unless You Let It. So it's a very similar topic, I would say, very close. So before we even start, I want you to put in the chat if you're listening or wave your hands or whatever you want to do. If you agree that some of the stuff that happens to you when you are still in that very impressionable age, like 0 to 16, if that has kind of an impact on who you are and how your life kind of goes forward, just put in the chat one or raise your hand if you think so. Yes. So right away, we got to absolutely yes. So I'm going to start and I'm going to give you a couple scenarios. And so put yourself here. Okay, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa looking over baby's crib, baby's cooing and gooing, and everybody's, oh my gosh, this baby's so cute. He's going to be president. She's going to be amazing. Whatever it is, girl, boy, they're going to do great things. How do you think that baby feels? What is the energy in the room? The baby feels loved. The baby feels wanted. The baby feels validated. Now picture another family. Mom's looking over the crib and she's like, God, I wish you were never born. I got to go to work. I can't even get to work on time because you're here. Oh my gosh, I hate this. I hate you. Frustration, anger. How do you think that baby feels? It feels unloved. It feels unwanted. It feels unvalidated. It feels icky. And this is an infant. We're talking, this is an infant. So we're going to fast forward 4 years. Okay. Now we got same child that was in that crib. And she's every day eating lunch with her mother. Big brother is off to school now, and she's stuck with her mom every day. And every day it's the same scenario. Her mom makes soft boiled eggs while she watches As the World Turns. Every day it's a fight. Every day she stuffs that food down her daughter's mouth and says, You're thankful I feed you at all. Sometimes she gets locked in a closet. Sometimes she gets beaten. Sometimes she doesn't get fed at all because she doesn't even like soft boiled eggs. Scenario 2, how does she feel? She feels not wanted. She feels not fed. She feels hungry. She feels completely unworthy of anything. We're going further. High school prom. Now the girl is not a good kid. So she's not feeling good about herself. She's drinking a lot. She has complete social anxiety. She has fear. She has all these things. So what does she do? The night of her senior prom, she drinks until she gets obliviated. She goes to the prom, and even though there are some very well-to-do people in the bathroom doing cocaine on the sink, she gets busted because she's drunk. So she ends up not being able to walk at graduation. And when she goes into the principal's office, this is what he says to her. You're never going to change, are you? I guess it's no wonder. Your mother's a drunk. So I guess you're just destined to be like that. So I encourage you to just go get a job, go work somewhere, just get something, do something, because you're not going to do anything with your life. Last case scenario. Mom is at the heart of in her bad way. And that same little girl is laying on a couch that her mother has put her there because she couldn't pay her drug debts. So she's agreed to let her daughter pay her drug debts for her. And what does that guy say to her? You're a whore. You're nothing. You're white trash. You will never be anything. Get used to it, kiddo. So do you think that defined that little girl? Do you think all of those things, she felt unworthy, unloved, disgusting, shameful, embarrassed, all that stuff, do you think it defined her? Because statistics say it would. Everything you read says it would. But I'm here to tell you, it's not how it always works, because I was that little girl. And here I am now. I'm a best-selling author. I'm a trauma-informed life coach. I'm a podcaster. I know Jessica always says top 10. She loves to say that for some reason. I don't know why. But I'm doing stuff with my life because I was going to beat the statistics. Because you know how I felt at 18 years old? I felt like somebody else was writing my story and they wouldn't give me the freaking pen. They wouldn't let me take the pen and write the story. That's just how I felt. So you wonder, okay, so what's going to happen to these kids? What are these experiences that I went through? They're called adverse childhood experiences. Many of you may know them as ACEs. That's kind of the acronym that they use now. So I want you to get out a piece of paper or get out, I don't know, use your fingers, whatever you want to do. There's 10 or 11 of them. And I'm going to read them off. And if you experience them, I want you to put a check. And if I experience them, I'm going to put a check. So here we go. Physical abuse, check. Sexual abuse, check. Emotional abuse, check. Emotional and mental neglect, check, check. Drug use, check. Alcohol use, check. Inappropriate witness. I'm going to explain that because a lot of people don't know what that is. So at a party at my house, because my parents like to drink a lot and party a lot, I walk around the corner. I'm in ninth grade, and my father and soon to be stepmother, who at the time was my mother's best friend, are rolling around in the grass half naked. My mother is drunk on the floor inside. That is inappropriate witness. So many of you also may know that as watching something horrible, seeing a shooting. I mean, like anything can be inappropriate witness. It's things that your mind at that age don't need to see, don't need to comprehend, and don't ever need to witness. So check that one. Domestic violence, check. Jail, check. Suicide, check. Mental illness, check. Divorce, check. How many did you check? I checked every single one on that list. Every single one I had experienced somewhere close to me. So statistics, again, we're going back to those freaking statistics because they say that only 0.3% have 8 or more of those statistics. 0.3% of the world. And did you fall into them? Because I think the statistics are a lot higher. I think a lot of them had them. And I'm pretty willing to say that we're all going to beat some statistics. So you wonder, what do these things cause? So as a kid, they cause mental health conditions, anxiety, social anxiety, fear, bipolar. They cause so many different things, medical problems, stomach aches. When I was 18, I went to the doctor and I was spitting up blood. I had bleeding ulcers. No doctor ever said to me, "Hey, Tammy, what was your childhood like? Like, what, do you have anything weird going on?" They gave me Tagamet. They gave me Nexium, whatever the heck it was. They sent me home for 15 years. That's what I took. No one ever thought about anything different. You talk about risky behavior. Of course, these kids engage in risky behavior. They have zero respect for themselves, for their bodies. They thrive on adrenaline. If they're calm, they're uncomfortable. They have problems in school. I mean, these are just some of the things. Now, luckily, I was fortunate enough. I didn't have problems in school because if I didn't get straight A's, my mom might have been a little pissed off, and that was worse than getting straight A's. So I was good in school. Didn't go to school a lot, but when I did good. I did pretty well. So I was fortunate enough in that I got all of those while I was a child. So I didn't want to follow that into adulthood. I didn't want to be that. I wanted to beat these statistics because do you know what the statistics said? And I love statistics because that's science. It's not just me talking. It's not just me saying, what I think. It's what the research shows. It shows that I had a 1,220% better chance of attempting or committing suicide. Well, I'd already gotten that out of the way. Didn't work. So wasn't going to do that anymore. I had a 1,003% better chance of drug and alcohol use. Did I use drugs and alcohol? No, drugs wasn't really my thing. Did I drink way too much? Yes, until I realized it wasn't a good thing. I had a 460% better chance of having anxiety and depression. Did I have that? Absolutely. But I've learned to beat it. I've learned to cope with it, and I've learned way many tools to take care of it. And it also says I had a 390% better chance of having a lung disease, which I don't really get that one, except that maybe a lot of people that have stress and anxiety smoke, or maybe it's the chronic inflammation. Maybe that's why they have lung disease, because that's a health problem that is blanketed across the world right now, is chronic inflammation from chronic stress. So I love it. I love that I got to beat all of these statistics. Now, it didn't come easily. Was there a turning point? Yes, there was a moment. Everybody has that moment. And guys, if you see somebody struggling, that moment does not have to be rock bottom. That moment does not have to be when they are at the bottom of the barrel. That moment happened to me when I was pregnant with my first child. I was reading the book Love You Forever. Now, if you've ever read that book, oh my gosh, if you've never read the book and you are a parent, go get the book. It is the best book ever. But anyway, it's a really cute children's book about an unconditional love between a mother and her son. So the mom is singing this song to her son. I love you forever. I like you for always, forever and ever, my baby you'll be.
100,000
And
miles.
as she's singing the song, she's rocking back and forth. And then the baby goes through these steps. It goes through these stages of different stages of life, a 2-year old, a 3-year old, a 4-year old. And all throughout the stage, the baby is just doing its thing. It's being annoying. It's being a child, just like a child should do. And through the whole thing, the mom is continuing to sing, I love you forever. I like you for always, forever and ever, my baby you'll be. Well, at the end of the book, the tides are turned. The moment is flipped. And now the mom is old and frail. And the the baby, who is now a grown man with his own children, is rocking the mother back and forth. And he's singing, I love you forever, forever and always, forever and ever, my mommy you'll be. Whew. It was crazy. The book is amazing. It's so cute. If you have children, you're going to cry. But what should have been this most serendipitous, happiest moment of my life hit me like a freaking 2x4, because what I realized at that moment was I didn't understand unconditional love. I didn't know how I could raise a child. I didn't know how I could be any different than what my parents were to me. And I wasn't quite sure I was ready for that. So I had, what should have been the happiest moment of my life, had a complete and total mental breakdown. But that was my turning point. That was the point I knew that had to go from awareness to action. I had to take action and I had to do something about it. So I did. I went to the Wayne County Public Library and I sat down in the stacks of books. Guys, we didn't have the internet back then. So if I had had the internet at that point, boy, my healing journey would have been so much quicker. But I had to read through stacks of books. I had to read about suicide and alcoholism and addiction and parenting and all of these things to realize all of the fundamental concepts that I never learned. Has anybody been there? Has anybody gotten to a point where you're like, oh my gosh, you're right. I didn't know how to feel emotions, didn't know what they were. I didn't know how to set boundaries, had never had them set, or even if they were set, they were so violently and deliberately crossed that they didn't mean anything to me. I didn't know about relationships. I didn't know about unconditional love. I didn't know any of that stuff. But for my children, well, at that point, it was my child that was about ready to be born. I was going to learn those things and I was going to learn them well. So the good news is, I know that was probably a morbid story and you're probably thinking, oh God, Tammy, get off here. You've been talking for 13 minutes. Stop. But that's not the point. The point is that I decided at that moment that my past was not going to define me. I wasn't going to let it. So what did I do? I worked and I worked and I read and I studied and I went to a therapist and I did all this stuff. But what I found is really 10 things that worked. Oh my gosh, I lost my 10 things. Yeah. Oh well. So I lost my list of 10 things, but I'm just going to wing it here. So I found that there were really 10 things that really worked on what we could do and how we could not define ourselves. One, you have to learn to set boundaries. You really have to learn to set them. You have to learn to stick with them. You have to learn to abide by them. Two, you have to have a support group. You have to know who your people are. You have to have a group of people that love you and trust you and can jump in with you at any moment and hold your hand. You have to have some compassion and you have to be generous and you have to be loving to yourself. That concept was so difficult for me. The concept of self love. I remember the moment. I remember the moment that I hit that turning point and I had decided, if I cannot love this baby like I need to, I'm going to give him up or her up. I'm going to do the right thing because I'm not going to do what my parents did to me. So I did the only logical thing because guys, we're resilient. If you're standing here today, you are resilient. But I did the only logical thing I could think of. I went out and bought a puppy. Now, if buying a puppy and loving on a puppy is not the true test of the human spirit as far as your unconditional or your ability to love unconditionally, nothing is. So I went out and I bought this 8-week-old puppy. And I remember when I held him in my hands, my heart for the first time melted. And that is when I knew that I was going to be okay because I had heard all this stuff. I had heard you have to love yourself, you have to love others, you have to love, 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 love. I kept hearing this word and it was so foreign to me until I held this puppy in my hand. And that's when I knew, like I said, that's when I knew I was going to be okay. So it was all going to be okay. But there was other steps. You have to really brace the fact and embrace the fact that it happened. Shit happened. The past happened. You cannot ignore it. And that's why we get here. That's why we're here today with all this chronic stress and all this anxiousness and all of this is because all of our lives, we are just thinking to ourselves, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. It's not important. I'm not worthy to fix it, except that it happened and just sit with it. Know it happened and know that you have everything inside of your God-given body and spirit to fix it and to help it and to move forward. One of the other things I think you really have to do is you have to just I'm losing my train of thought. I, I'm losing it. I lost my list. That's what happened. But you have to just go with it and you have to just understand that it happened. The other thing is you have to really make peace with forgiveness. Now, I am not saying forgive the people that hurt you in a way that you're seeking out and telling them you forgive them. I am talking about letting go. Forgiveness means something different to everybody. Forgiveness can mean getting an apology from them. Forgiveness could mean saying, I'm sorry. To me, what forgiveness meant was letting go of the animosity, the hatred, and the feelings that had complete and total control over me from the people that hurt me. I promise you, nobody that hurt me ever came back and said to me, will you forgive me? It never happened. Half the people didn't even know they hurt me. Half the people didn't even care. The other half, now we're at 150%, could have cared less. How many people have ever waited for a forgiveness that never came, for an apology that never came? I promise you, it will eat you up. Do not let forgiveness control you. Take back. Once you let go of that animosity, you surrender and you literally take back control of your life and it no longer controls you. The other thing is to start looking at things with empathy. Start looking at people with empathy. I know empathy was such a hard concept for me, but it was so important to be able to get in other people's shoes and understand. I remember the first time my dad said to me, Tammy, I know I'm doing irreparable damage to you and your brother and sister, and I don't know how to help you. So he sent me to an Alateen meeting. Okay. And that day they talked about empathy and they talked about how we should get in our, whatever you kind of want to call them, qualifier, abuser, whatever you want to call them, get in their shoes and try to understand where they're coming from. I couldn't because that very night before, my mom had called my father down and was burning cigarettes on him, trying to get him to hit us because it was the 70s. There was going to be a divorce, a violent custody hearing and all that stuff. And she wanted him to hit her. And we're screaming, hit her, hit her. And this person at this Alateen meeting is telling me, get in her shoes and try to understand. When you talk about conflicting information, talk about being confused, it was impossible then. But as an adult, it was okay. As an adult, it was easier to do. I knew my mother was tormented. She was in a tormented soul, like she was in a body, her body, mind, and spirit was all tormented. She was drinking, she was doing drugs for whatever reason, but it was because she was sick. It wasn't my fault, but I had to understand that. And it took me many, many years to understand that. So, but that was one of my big, 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 big ones in healing is that I had to be able to look at other people's situations and not judge, but be compassionate. And that's really what we're here for. That's what this summit is about. It's about learning to understand what we don't understand and be compassionate and loving with the people that really need it when they need it. So those are just some of the big ones. I could go on and on and on. Journaling helped me. I use so many different things. I went to hypnotherapy. I went to a hypnotherapist. I tried so many different modalities. But at the end of the day, what I realized, is that everything you need, you have right inside of you. You were born this beautiful, amazing, divine creature, and then life happened. And it made you put on a different lens than the way you see the world. But it doesn't have to be that way. Learn to love yourself because you're worthy and you deserve to be loved. Hug yourself. Get in touch with your inner child. There were so many things you can do to take back control of your life and redefine your life the way you want it to be. Nobody, and when I tell you nobody, no abuser, no teacher, no anybody can tell you who you deserve to be and how beautiful you are. You have to feel it inside. So I invite you to reach out to me. Let's grab that pen. Let's rewrite those stories together the way we want to write them because we all deserve it, guys. You're beautiful. You're amazing. But until you know it, you're going to stay right there. I can tell you all the times in the world how beautiful and amazing you are. You have to believe it in your heart. Between you and your God, whatever your God may be, your higher power, the thing that is bigger than you, between the two of you, you got this. Thank you so much for letting me come on today. I'm going to open it up to questions. There probably are some questions because I don't have my list with me. Does anybody have any questions?
I got questions.
Oh, I know you do.
So, okay. If anybody out there has questions, by all means, I will shut up, but I have questions. So what happens and what is your advice, Miss Tammy? Oh, by the way, let me just start by saying she should be darn proud that she has a top 10 podcast because that is not an easy task. And so I'm going to be braggadocious for her as a good friend because she won't do it for herself. So that is why I say it. But my question now is what happens when the person like needs they need the person to admit their wrongdoing, like for their closure. And I know you can't force a person to do any of that, but like there are many people who spiral when like their abuser dies. And because like obviously the probability of an apology is completely out the window, even though it was out the window before. But like what is your advice to someone who is really seeking admission of guilt and this fictitious apology that's really probably never going to happen in order for closure?
My advice is to find a support group or to find somebody or to find an NLP practitioner or to find something that's going to be able to rewrite your definition of forgiveness because that's what it took for me. I knew those people were never going to come back and forgive. And if I knew that if I sat and waited, it would literally kill me. Both of my parents died, and it was only 3 times in my entire life that alcoholism was ever even spoken about. One, well, as a conversation, I would call my mom a stupid drunk all the time, but that wasn't the point. One was, when my dad told me he was doing irreparable damage to me, didn't know how to help me. One was when my dad was getting ready to have a kidney removed, and he begged me to go talk to the doctors and tell him he was an alcoholic because he was afraid he was gonna die of withdrawal. And this is 40 years later. Um, and I don't remember the other time, honestly. I think there was one other conversation, but I had to let go of that. Like I had to let go of that definition of forgiveness because it wasn't coming. So I had to redefine forgiveness, forgive and not make it about them, make it all about me and the control that what they did to me, the control that it had over what they did to me was not worth it. It wasn't worth it. That's the best thing I can suggest because that's what worked for me was when I let go of the fact that it was about them at all. I could take every single person that ever hurt me in my entire life and be at peace with it, take them all out of the equation completely. And I was at peace with it. And that's when I started getting much better. I don't know if that helps or not, but
That no, that does, and I'm glad because people need to hear that because they're not going to get that apology. You're 100% correct, and waiting for it is just going to destroy you. Yeah, no, that was a very good answer to that.
and there
What?
are like the Japanese or the Hawaiian Hono Ono Pona, I can never say it right. They're very, very distinct in their belief, and you have to forgive, and this is what it looks like. And forgiveness looks like something different for everybody, just like healing looks like something different for everybody. There's no one true. You can take even the scriptures in the Bible and you can manipulate those words just by flipping two little words, and all of a sudden it means something completely different. It's what you need to do for your own mental health. It's for your own mental sanity, really. Forgiveness can, that's what step 4 or 5 of the 12-step programs. I'm drawing a blank here, even though they're pretty common, but people get stuck on that step, and they drop out of a 12-step program because they can't ever get past the forgiveness. Rewrite what forgiveness means to you. Rewrite that narrative.
I think that's very powerful. Very powerful.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like you forgiveness shame people because it needs to look a certain way.
No, I'm not saying condone the behavior.
No, I know
It
you're
was,
not. I'm saying
yeah,
like
it
when
was,
we hear the words forgiveness, we automatically think we have to forgive the person that harmed us. And you're right, that needs, it's almost like forgiveness shaming. Like you need to forgive and move like it never happened. And that's
and
very
for,
powerful.
yeah, and for people healing, let me tell you something too. Forgiving yourself, accepting the fact that, I always say you don't know what you don't know. You did everything you did out of 100% survival. Do I feel guilty about the things I did, about the food I stole when I was starving at my mother's house when she wasn't feeding me? Do I feel guilty about the people I hurt? Yes, for a long time I did, but I know it was almost like those 18 years of my life, I was dissociated from the reality of who I was. And it's the same thing. Forgive yourself, because you will literally eat yourself alive. You'll never heal if you hold on to that forgiveness too, the lack of that forgiveness. And that's very critical in healing.
Can you tell us a little bit about your free gift, which I'm going to pop in the chat?
It depends on which one you pop in there.
I have to look.
I
Tell me about, yes.
I probably, guys, it was probably a 2-week coaching
Yes.
with
Yes, it
me
was.
with a group.
Hmm.
So the group is very small right now. I'm getting it revamped and I love it, but it's just an opportunity to come on. It piggybacks off of my course. So there is a schedule about what we talk about, but we talk about whatever you need to talk about. So I come on 4 times a week. You can jump on whenever you want. You can ask questions about anything. Some days there may be one person, some days there may be 6. So it's a great opportunity to get whatever you need to feed your soul and your spirit at that moment. We might do an EFT tapping session if you're stressing about something. We might talk about boundaries. It's whatever you need at the moment. I am very big on reaching you where you're at and meeting you where you're at, because I could have all the A to Z protocol in the world in my little calendar, and if you need something different at the moment, that's what I'm there to provide. So 2 weeks. And even if you decided to follow on with it, it's literally $50 a month. So it's not like it's a huge. I think that if you have grown up in complete and utter chaos and dysfunction, you have paid the price. So I would like people to be able to jump on and heal and get these little tidbits. I mean, between podcasts and all these other venues we have to get information, I just honestly, I just want to help as many people and connect with as many people as I can. So that's my gift.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Does anybody else have any other questions? Crystal, I know you came off of mute and I muted you. I didn't know if you did that on purpose, but if you wanted to ask a question, I'm not trying to put you on the spot either. I just wanted to know if I saw that you took it off of mute, so that was all. No?
No.
Okay.
Well, I will
Very
be
good.
on, I'll be on all the panels because that's what I'm here to do. So if
Yes.
you have any other questions or just want to reach out, guys, if you just want to reach out and chat, please do. Sometimes all it takes is someone saying, I hear you. All it takes is, I mean, God gave us 2 ears and one mouth, and I am more than happy to open up my ears and shut my mouth for you. Not for some people, but for you. Yes. Thank you.
Tammy is also giving away a free coaching call, which I put in the chat as well. So,
Yes,
yes.
absolutely. Well, you all have a blessed day. I'm going to
Thank you
stop
so
this
much,
little
Tammy.
recording now.